Hello, it's Nicola from Daisy and Grace and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be talking about my half hexagon templates. Quilt as you go hexagon templates. Now we've already covered the hexagons. Now some of you might be saying I love the hexagons but I don't really, on this quilt behind me, want that ziggy zaggy edge. And when I first introduced these templates, I had quite a few people saying I'd like a straight line there please, I don't like the houndstooth effect. So I had to create a half hexagon, and you'd think it was just a half hexagon, but there's more to it than that. But I just want to show you, here is the piece that I made in the hexagons. And you can see I filled the top up with my half hexagons, and I wanted to show you this as well because here is the stitching I did in blue and on all the rest is in white, and as you can see machine stitching it looks perfect. So don't panic if you don't want to do everything by hand. You can do a mixture of hand and machine sewing, or all machine or all hand. It's entirely up to you, whatever you feel is better for you. So here is my half hexagon. So I'm going to show you how to hand stitch this today, but before we get onto that I want to show you a few more things, because I'm a quilter and I don't like something just doing one thing. It has to do more than one thing. So instead of just finishing off an edge of the quilt, which is good, and I want to show you this as well. I got ahead of myself there. This is using the half hexagons on my small cutie 1.25" hexagons. Isn't this just adorable? Haven't finished it yet, and it's been a long while I'm finished, but this is a lovely little clutch bag. Look at that. But I could only do that by filling in the edges. So this is the 1.25" half hexagon with the 1.25" hexagon. Adorable, isn't it? Now, because you can do more things with it, I wanted to show you this. So this is a 2.5" hexagon with the 2.5" half hexagons, nearly got that wrong, all the way around the edge to create a huge hexagon. Now, isn't that just lovely? There's also a way you can offset the hexagons so it looks like it's going around in a circle. And don't panic, I'm going to put a link on the video, and there's a download on my website for the various patterns. On this one as well, I've used a fancy stitch to join the pieces, so I've put a close-up of that on the video for you as well. And last but not least, look at this. How cool is this? I haven't got very far with this, and it will get bigger. But if you use self on self, so your backing is the same as your middle. So as you can see, if I turn it on the back is the same as the front apart from the bindings. And I've used 3 tones of fabric, so a light, medium and a dark. And then you get this gorgeous effect of a bit Escher-esque, of like tumbling blocks, but not tumbling blocks because they're half hexagons. But I would love to do a full quilt on this when I get time. I've got so many things to do. Well, again, without further ado, we're going to go and I'll show you how to hand stitch these half hexagons. So here I have my 2.5" half hexagon, and I've got the outer and the inner. I've cut the outer in the backing fabric, which comes over and forms the binding. And in this one, I've cut the main fabric and the wadding. So what I'm going to do is move these all around. I'm going to place my template on the fabric. And this is the beauty of my templates, is that it gives you this inner section where you can layer up your wadding and your main fabric. If you don't get this correct, you don't get equal bindings and it all becomes a little bit messy. I'm going to grab a pin. Well, I'm going to grab a couple of pins actually, and I'm placing a pin through all layers, just checking that that's all lined up still. There we go. Perfect. Take that off. Now, if you're going to be doing a lot of these, I recommend that you do all this first, so you get a big pile whatever template that you're using ready, and then you can sit and sew it. I'm going to show you how I sew a 2.5 inch hexagon, half hexagon, but you decide what you want to do. So the first thing I do is I take this edge and I fold it over so that edge of that fabric meets the edge of the inner shape, and I roll it over. Sorry, and I forgot to get my clips, so get some clips out. And I tend to, for bindings on quilts, which this is a binding, I tend to use clips because I just find them a little easier. You can find those on my website as well. But I didn't mean to do that, you know. Whatever you feel comfy using, you use. So I'm going around and I'm doing these edges first. So again, fold. And can you see that they're, because this is a bit half of a hexagon, these corners meet up. Because the angle is correct, it just makes a really lovely mitre. So I am using ridiculously blue thread so that you might get to see my stitches. I'm going to put a knot in the end. There we go. And what I'm going to do, I just between the backing and the wadding, I run my needle up just so it catches the very edge of the fabric. And I'm going to sew like you would a binding, just catching the very edge of the fabric. About 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch apart, the stitches. I'm sure a lot of you have done many bindings on quilts. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get up to where that mitre is, and I'll show you what I do on the mitre. Now, because this is blue, you can see my little stitches, but if you were to use self on self colour, whatever your binding is, you won't see these little stitches. I'll remove that pin, remove those clips. Oops. Look, it keeps getting caught on that corner. And I get to the here, and I get to that mitre. So I've come up through the backing of this bit of binding and then come up on the corner of that mitre. I hope you can see that. There we go, like that. And then I'm just going to go back through the bindings, just do another little stitch through there. That's all you need to do. You don't need to sew along this bit. That's all perfect. You don't need to do that. And so we're going along here, and we're just going to do a little bit fast forward until we get to the end now. So I'm just getting to the end of this section, and I'm going to stop sewing. I think the next stitch will be enough. I'm going to stop sewing there, and I'm just going to put my needle into my my little quilt. I'm going to put that down. I'm going to take this needle out because that's all secured in there nicely. I'm going to show you how I do this edge. So what I do, I fold again, so like we've done all the other edges, and finger press that in place like so. Then this end I fold over like that and turn, and you can see you've got a nice point there. Put a pin there, a clip, sorry, and another clip there. I'm going to turn it round. I find this easier, but again, you'll find your own method. All I'm doing is tucking that tail in and then folding it over like that. Clip nearly missed the edge, and I'm just going to put a couple more clips in there like so. So this is the bit that you need to know about, the corners. We're going to go in, and I'm going to do like we did on the mitre, go into the very corner, catching both layers of binding, and come up. This time I'm going to put a little knot in there, so I just run my needle through my thread. Then I come up halfway there, and I do catch that binding there, and then I go through to the very edge here, run my thread, and I'm going to catch that edge, and again I'm going to put the needle through the loop to give it a little knot. Then I run it through the binding and come through both sets of bindings, and I do a little 1 stitch, 2 stitch, because we've got that little tail tucked in there. I do that so that if any eventuality this isn't joined in a seam, that can't poke out, that little tail can't poke out once the quilt is finished. Then I run the needle back through. Oh, and I didn't mention, no stitches on the back here. I haven't caught the back, so it's all through the main fabric and the wadding, and I'm not going through the back. So I'm going to pull that through, and then I start again. So I'll do this, and I'll catch you up at the end again, and I'll just show you that point once more. Look at that. Just pulled my thread out just as I was getting to the end. So I'm now going to have to try and thread my needle. There we go. So I am nearly at the end. So we are going to carry on going till we get to that corner. And I'm going to just take that clip out so it's out of the way. And we're going to do the same as we did on that other one. Now there's a few shapes that this is the technique I use on. So on the jewel, on the diamond, any of the, on the triangles, this is how I do the pointy sections, which I've already done a diamond tutorial. So it's very similar to that. There we go. So I've run my needle and it's come out on the point of that binding. I'm going to go back through both layers. I am going to put a little knot in there. I'm going to run through. I didn't do both sides at the same time there. And it's caught a little bit of the fabric. That red has come through from my main fabric. So I'm going to just pull that fluff out. Let's grab my needle again. And I am going to run a little knot, so needle through that loop. I'm going to do it one more time. So there's a loop, just run my needle into the loop and pull it. Now before I cut my thread off, I just run my needle so it's through all the thicknesses of fabric. I pull it out and then I chop it off, and then you won't get a little thread coming here. So that is my completed half hexagon. Apart from the blue thread, it's good. Well, I hope you enjoyed my half hexagon tutorial, and I hope you've subscribed to my channel. Don't forget to do that, and check my website out as well. But until next time, happy sewing. See you later. Bye.